All right, guys, here we go. Cloud Kingdom is the map, and at the bottom left part of it, we have appropriately named for this map, Cloud, representing ATN type. And at the top right, we have our pink Zerg player from the team, Acer. We've got Cloud on Cloud Kingdom, and the ace of Acer, it is Nerchio.
Oh boy.
I know.
Ace of Acer.
Ace of Acer.
Cloud on
Acer.
Cloud Kingdom. I meant to ask Cloud why he actually chose that name.
Cloud?
I know sometimes he tunes into these matches, things like that when we're casting. So Cloud, if you're out there, tweet at us. Appreciate it. We'd like to know. Regardless, it's another TVC, and this is kind of an interesting map choice out of Nerchio, I have to say. Usually we've seen Protoss players favor this most of all. Two-base strategy is really, really powerful here. Then it's pretty easy to take a third as well if you want to play towards a long macro game. Then it kind of filters down to Terrans kind of like it the most next because they're able to do so much dropping, multitasking. Mech play very, very strong here as well. You can use tanks to watch so much of the space in between your natural and your third base, both those ramps there. And then Zerg players seem to like it the least, but I don't know the statistics of Nerchio's background on this map, so maybe he's just ridiculously powerful here, but this is still kind of an interesting map choice from him. Yeah,
you know, it really is. The third is a little bit tougher to hold on this map than some of the other ones, and I feel like Zerg really struggles on Cloud Kingdom in the late game especially, just because when you get that bigger, late game army with Broodlords or Ultralisks, whatever it happens to be, it becomes very difficult for that Zerg army to get around the map fast enough to deny their hatcheries. Your fourth, your fifth on this map are pretty far out there. So when it gets to the late game, I feel like Zerg can kind of struggle positionally a little bit on Cloud Kingdom. So it is indeed an interesting choice by Nerchio. He's got to have a plan up his sleeve for this, so we'll have to see what he decides to do.
It looks like it was a 14 hatch 15 pool to kick things off for him. So 14 hatch 15 pool. Cloud once again going for the looks like 2 harvesters on gas.
So it is
a refinery. So
okay, interesting. Well, that's confusing to me then, because the way he did it last game on Antigua Shipyard, there was like a larger gap of time than there normally is when your barracks could either be making a marine or when you're putting your refinery down. So that's, I don't know, that's a little bit weird, because normally if you go for a reactor and Hellion build, you do have a little bit of a gap after your second marine before you can do your reactor, but it seemed like it was a lot longer the way that it was, because he was kind of waiting for the gas for the refinery. So I'm going to be kind of watching this carefully. This is very interesting. He has 3. No, he still has 2 in there right now.
Yeah.
Now he's putting a third
There's the third. And it does end up timing nicely. Then whenever he hits his 100 gas, he's making SCVs, and he hits that 150 minerals
he's got
right
exactly
away.
enough there for the factory. So that does work out well.
Now, if he does the same thing he did last time, he'll begin construction of this reactor and then put up a third base.
How many Marines does he have?
1.
He's got 1. Okay, so he's got his command center a little bit faster.
Oh, he's making another barracks. Okay, so this is already a different build than what we saw last time.
Okay,
He may be going right into Marine tank right away. Could be something along those lines. We'll see if another command center gets put up, but this is certainly a different look than he gave us last go-around on Antigua Shipyard.
Well, this is just definitely a little bit more of a macro-oriented kind of opening here. I mean, getting by with 1 Marine so early in the game is a little bit risky. I mean, in the current metagame, it's probably not that big of a risk as it would have been, like a year ago or something like that. But this is really an interesting build from Cloud. I mean, he's trying to get his infrastructure built very, very quickly with this on 2 bases. He wants to be able to make kind of a bigger surge of Marines and Hellions early on. So, we'll see how well it works. It's sacrificing a little bit of early defense for probably a little bit bigger army slightly later. So we'll see how well it works.
Couple of Hellions popping out now. We do have another reactor and a tech lab being started, so we'll be able to move into quite a bit of marine, upgraded marine production pretty soon. Back on Nerchio's side of things, though, he has started remining gas, and it looks like he's got nothing out of the ordinary, though. Just 2 queens up. He's not producing another one, just reinvesting back into his drone. So a little bit older style of ZVT, but certainly one that's proven to be effective.
Yep, I mean, it feels like in Europe especially, the Zergs are kind of sticking to kind of the old standbys as far as styles go. Of course, we've got a couple that break the mold, so to speak, like Stefano, of course. But in general, they do tend to try to stick to the more, proven standbys in different matchups. And there's a reason for that. I mean, the reason is that they're very solid ways to play their race. So not surprising at all. Although now we do have 2 evolution chambers on the way for Nerchio. So he will be moving into that very heavily upgraded Ling, probably Baneling as well, composition.
Yeah, he's going to have a ton of upgrades here and a lot of gas to work off of as well. Could go up to his layer attack very soon if he wants, investing into +1 Carapace, and I imagine we're going to see some form of +1 attacks here in just a second. Now, back on Cloud's side, he does have his starport on the way. It looks like he's just constructing that right away on top of the reactor. So 2 racks, Hellions, and a few medevacs ready to pop out.
Yeah. All right, and he will have enough for 2 Hellions. Although, yeah, okay, his supply depot did just finish just in time, so that's pretty good. Interesting. Okay, yeah, I'm just kind of like really looking at how everything's lining up for Cloud's build. Sorry, I'm being a little bit distracted here, but
That's quite all right.
it's interesting. I'm kind of wondering why he's timing things out the way he is. It's a little bit different than I've seen in the past year too. He is getting 2 engineering bays, all right, and when those finish, he should have about enough to start 1-1 and continue to make Marines, but he's not going to be able to continuously make medevacs right now. So I don't know. Sorry, I'm getting into like Doe is ignoring the actual game. He's just looking at the build thing. I'll stop.
It is interesting to note, though, one thing that was kind of cool for me to see is that Cloud's just sitting on 39 SCVs at this point.
Yeah,
when you go for that 3 command center build, you see the effect that it gives you is he'd be 50, 60 at this point. Oh, and it looks like this drop gets picked up on now. Is Nerchio going to be able to react to it in time? There's the question. 12 Zerglings are popping out, but it's before the Roach Warren is down, and Nerchio was going off of a really minimal defense, and this is a lot of units out of Cloud.
Yeah, it is. It's a pretty strong little push. It's timed up with Stim. He doesn't have combat shields or 1-1 yet, but he does have 2 medevacs and some Hellions and Marines, so he certainly can do damage. Denied that 3rd base pretty easily here.
Yeah, it takes out the Spine Crawler very easily as well, and Cloud going to continue to roll in. A few Zerglings are popping out. Now we do have 11 Roaches on the way as well, and Nerchio is certainly going to need those. He loses one of his Queens right away. No injects actually on this hatchery at the moment. A few Roaches are finally out, but a few workers could still go down if Nerchio isn't careful.
Oh, and it looks like Cloud is going to continue to do damage. Oh, looks like Nerchio tried to surround with the drones. It didn't work. He's going to go back to mining, losing a few more here. The pickup, and Cloud does get away after causing some damage here. Looks like, let's see. Oh, that medevac needs to go.
He did even up the workers. In fact, he's a little bit ahead as he establishes his 3rd. So Cloud is now up a base. He's up on workers. He's got pretty good tech going as well. And Nerchio going to have to play a little bit of catch-up.
So the idea with that opening, I believe, and I would, of course, have to ask Cloud to be sure, but it appears that it was just designed to have this Hellion Marine timing with medevacs at kind of a weird time. That hit it like the 9:15 mark, which is slightly earlier than most Zergs are ready for a push. So it's kind of taking advantage of the common timings that Zergs are used to, it looked like. So in a sense, that was really cool. It worked out. It denied the 3rd, did some damage, killed a decent amount of workers at not that high of a cost for Cloud. He did lose that medevac, which I think normally you wouldn't want to lose, but overall it went pretty well.
And Cloud now going to be at max saturation in just a moment, so he will need to find a way to establish this 3rd base pretty soon. And he does have some tanks sitting overhead to watch a pretty wide amount of area here. But Nerchio not pushing in quite yet, just reinvesting back into his infestor upgrades. Pathogen Glands is far enough along now that he can start infestors and have those with the extra energy as soon as they pop up. And it looks like he's going to take a 4th as well.
Yep, that's right. Why not? Why not go ahead and take 2 expansions really quickly here. Knows that his opponent Cloud is going to have to wait a little while anyway. The Roach is pressuring for just a moment there, doing everything they can to kind of cause Cloud to get that 3rd as late as possible.
And this is a little bit of an interesting scenario, though, because, an orbital command over at this 3rd base is a little bit exposed on this map. There are a lot of opportunities to attack through it. So you always have to make sure you have a really nice defense, as it is susceptible to backstabs and the like.
How do you feel if you're that SCV? You're like building your building, it just gets blown up right in front of you. You're like, hey, what?
Look, Mom, I did things today. I built. Oh.
He's just like got his hands out about to put like a bolt into something, and the building just explodes. He's like, wait a second.
Benny Hill music plays in the background. Bad vaudeville act as he tries to build it like 6 different times.
Pretty much. Ooh, 2 more factories on the way for Cloud. He's going to be wanting to up his tank count a lot, it looks like here.
Yeah,
Roaches pressuring from
hey,
Nerchio.
Yes. Yep. Similar thing to what he did last game. That's all I want to say. Oh, wow. Actually, a pretty good fungal there as Roach is taking a little bit of damage on their way out, but a lot of brains did go down.
Yeah, Spire on the way too for Nerchio, as well as Hive. He's going to be moving into Broodlords here in the near future. It looks like 2-2 getting pretty close to finishing for Cloud. Wants to make kind of a strong push out of it, I would think, but with losing a lot of Marines like that, his push is going to be just a little bit weaker. So we'll have to see what he has planned. Nerchio, again, just kind of trying to get as many expansions up as he possibly can. His drone count, very good this game, up to 84. And so even if he does get expansions denied from time to time, he should have enough drones to move in, mine a lot from it before he needs to run away.
Nerchio's macro is just ridiculous, I have to say. He took a lot of damage at the beginning of this game from that 2-base attack from Cloud. A lot of damage. He lost a base, he lost a lot of drones. His tech was kind of set back. He lost all his queens. But yet, somehow, we look up at the 14-minute mark. He's sitting on 5 bases. He's got Greater Spire about halfway finished. Adrenal Gland's on the way. And he's going to be able to make a monster amount of units here in just a bit.
Yeah, he was able to get those roaches out right at the end of that little push from Cloud. And because he had those roaches and he knew that Cloud right then only had Marines without combat shields and a couple medevacs, he could be greedy rather, about how he expanded, how many bases he took, just because he was that much safer at that point in the game. So Nerchio just doing a really good job of reading the situation. Oh, those Marines are going to wish they were in a different medevac.
Oh, wow. That
Ouch.
is a little gross. So Nerchio using those 2 Corruptors to full effect. He'll be able to turn them into Broodlords here in just a second as well.
Yeah, so Cloud getting his 3-3. He's going to have to worry about denying this or holding this 3rd base, I guess you could say.
Yeah, a few SCVs actually going down right away. Oh, my God! Fungal's catching so many units there. How many went down? It looks like Nerchio has killed 18. The rest of these very low in the red.
Decent amount, and man, if he had a few more Fungals, he could kill a lot of Marines. Cloud's medevac count, you know, again, just like last game, a little bit low. Looks like we have a little bit of a push at that 3rd base, though, that Nerchio is not quite ready for. Loses the Queen right away.
And there's one of those medevacs, but it looks like at the same time, Cloud is going to roll up and try and take out the 4th.
Yep, and this is what Cloud is so good at in this kind of early late game in TVZ. He's just so good at being in different parts of the map, finding where the Zerg isn't, and then coming in and killing those outlying bases. Oh no!
Oh,
Drones
God.
going into the Marine meat grinder.
Oh, that's so much economic damage being done.
Nerchio. That's not good.
And at the same time, Cloud continuing to roll up. Now, there are a few Broodlords out, so we'll need to start making some Vikings, and it looks like he is. No +1 attacks on the way, though, I believe.
Yep, and looks like Cloud wants to kill off this 3rd base now. He hasn't quite killed the one on the left side, but now it does go down. Nerchio desperately trying to defend this base. If he loses this base, there's a very good chance that he will lose this game. He does have Broodlords, though, so Cloud needs to start worrying about that.
And he snags a few tanks on the way as well, and Nerchio just showing his macro might once again. Cloud just trying to take down this base for everything he has.
Oh,
it's
down,
so close.
He
Goes
got it.
down. So Nerchio is once again on 2 bases, but he does have a pretty decent army at the moment.
Yeah, how many Broodlords does he have? He's got 3 morphing right now, and he's got 3 out, so he will have a total of 6 Broodlords. But at this point in the game, it's going to be very difficult for Nerchio to take additional bases again, just because it's going to be really tough for him to get there and defend against Cloud's army. Cloud can, push to one side. Nerchio has to slowly move his Broodlords over, and by the time he gets there, the base is dead. Cloud just pulls back. So this is that kind of late game part of Cloud Kingdom and ZVT matchup on it that I feel like Zergs kind of do struggle with from time to time. So Nerchio, I think we're probably just going to see go for it. He's just going to attack and see if he can just end the game right here.
So there's going to be an awful lot of Broodlords here in a second, though.
Yeah.
There are 9 up. There's a 10th on the way. He is redroning and producing 3 hatcheries at the same time, trying to re-expand back to all 5 bases once again.
Yep, he needs to have that Corruptor count high, though. I mean, the Fungals are going to be helpful, too, but, he loses a Broodlord. That is way too much to be losing right now. You can't make that many Broodlords and then start losing them because your Corruptor count is kind of low here. So Nerchio needs to be so careful with this attack. Special Edition Thors for Cloud. That should win him the game right there, in my opinion.
Yeah, no kidding. They do
awesome.
about 1,000 damage per shot. So.
Oh, yeah, they're awesome.
Well, here comes the Marines now, but unfortunately, there's just no way to assault this position.
Yeah.
Cloud does flank from the back, and he picks off all the infestors.
Very nice.
There they go. They do all fall down. There are just a handful of Broodlords remaining now, just 4 more left. But Nerchio has done quite a bit of damage to his opponent as well.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he's killed the army off quite nicely here. Cloud's still just sitting on 3 total bases himself as well. And Nerchio now expanding to that left and right side again. So Cloud is going to need to do the Cloud thing again and hit different places, try to be where the Zerg army is not. I don't know how I feel really about adding on all these Thors. I mean, they do hit air, obviously, but the damage they do against Broodlords and Corruptors is pretty minimal. And I feel like you could just get more Vikings at this point or spend a lot more on Marines, a few more barracks and things like that. So the choice for Thors from Cloud is an interesting one. I'm curious to see how that's going to end up working out for him in the later part of the game.
Thors are hard countered by speedlings as well, especially as upgraded as they are with those adrenal glands. So they do minimize the effect of Thors pretty effectively. But that being said, more Corruptors being added on now, more Infestors popping up. Actually, the entire Infestor count was actually killed by that last attack.
Yeah.
So Nerchio certainly needing to reinvest back into those. Cloud trying to take a 4th base now. He hasn't sat on this expansion the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, Nerchio, again, too, he knows that he's got a little bit of breathing room, so he's taking the time to add on those bases, you know, get some more Infestors out, and just kind of build up the energy on that, get ready for the next push. Cloud, you know, he could try to take a 4th base fairly soon here. That would definitely be a good idea. Still making Thors. So just going very, very, very Thor heavy. If you get to the point where you've got like 7 or 8, or even, you know, 4 to 5 can be the point where that damage does start to add up in terms of ground to air. And like I said, they are special edition, so that just makes them 10 times cooler in my opinion.
Good enough as, by itself. What are you doing, Infestor?
Oh, that Infestor was so brave.
Yeah,
it's so
brave
stupid.
and dead. Well, this base is actually could go down again. It looks like the Broodlords are trying to swing into position now. 7 Broodlords sitting overhead. At the same time, Cloud is actually dropping over to the left. We'll take a look at that after this fight here, though. The Infestors headbutting units, but they do deal with most of the Marines. Is it going to be enough, though? The Broodlord count is slowly starting to fall down. The Thors have to back up, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, just no Vikings out right now for Cloud, relying just on Thors and Marines. That is quite brave, if I do say so myself. Those Corruptors deciding they can just kind of take some from the Marines, getting a little bit tickled by those Gauss rifles.
Tickled and a couple
no
of dead. Yeah. But the Thors now starting to deal out a bit of splash damage, these Corruptors as well. But now that the Zerglings are swinging in from behind, it's going to make hell for these Thors.
Yeah, I just don't think the Thors were the right answer for Cloud in this later part of the game. We've seen Terrans kind of experimenting a lot with late game compositions, and some have tried to add on Thors. But, you know, as we can see, they just don't do damage fast enough, and they are killed too easily by Zerglings, frankly. And Cloud doesn't have enough Marines to kind of take away that option. He looks like he might kill this base. No, Nerchio is there in time to at least slow down this push.
Yep, even 3-3 Marines get wrecked by Adrenal Gland Zerglings in mass.
Oh, there goes the Thor.
Yep, Thor does fall down. There are a few Marines left over now, and they're going to be able to deal out some economic damage. In fact, this Infestor wants a headbutt, but it's not all that effective.
Nope. Not effective at all. Oh, he loses another Infestor as well. A little bit of a sloppy game from both players in this latter part of the game. It is down and dirty.
Yeah, this is
Cloud
like
Kingdom.
this is just kind of one of those like drag out, knockout fights. I mean, there's no holds barred, and they're kind of just slugging each other to death.
Yeah, it's 2 boxers taking turns, punching each other in the face until one eventually falls over.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Slayer's boxer. I'm talking about like regular.
Although
boxers,
that's what I imagine, so I don't know if that's a good thing.
maybe.
Like Muhammad Ali versus Slayer's boxer kind of a deal, but
Slayer's boxer would totally win.
Yeah,
Totally win if they played StarCraft.
Well, let's see here. Nerchio forced to cancel yet another base, and Cloud's going to get out of there with those Marines, so still doing a pretty good job of that. And looks like this tank will finally get cleared up, but Nerchio was in danger of losing yet another base. Cloud has finally established a planetary fortress over at his 4th.
Yeah, both players taking pretty big hits economically. Nerchio and losing bases in Cloud and just not being able to really take a 4th until now. He's still not adding on Vikings, too, just really relying on Marines. He's adding a few more missile turrets on right now. The Thor count has not been increased. Cloud's sitting on a lot of money, actually, right now. Curious to see what he's planning on doing with that. Nerchio being very hesitant to move in here. He doesn't have... Oh, does he have enough Infestors to hold this off?
Well, he does chain fungal a couple of those units, and a lot of the Marines are going to fall.
Yeah, looks like he might.
And the Broodlord's taking a little bit of damage from the Thor because it has a billion range with the Javelin missiles. One of the Broodlords has finally fallen. A second looks like it's going to go down here in a second, but there are still 2 remaining.
Yeah, you know, I feel like Nerchio may have pushed this just a little bit too early. Didn't have the proper protection that those Broodlords needed. Scan from Cloud shows him that there's not really a lot there, and he's going to rush right up, try to kill everything he can, focusing down the Broodlords. He gets them.
Very nice. Very nice. Does take out a couple of those. And are there any Broodlords left? No, there are not. There are 11 Infestors and 32 Lings, but absolutely no Broodlords on the field.
Yep, and now we really see that lack of minerals hurting Nerchio right now. He's got plenty of gas, but just does not have the drones he needs to be able to mine effectively, continue to create a good army. So Cloud with the definite advantage right now, but Nerchio coming in with another attack, lots of speedlings and a couple corruptors added into this, but it looks like the Marine count is just too high. Oh, random Infestor exploding.
Wow, that Marine, surrounded by Zerglings, picks off an Infestor. His tail will be told of him for time to come. So,
that's right.
Well, Corruptor's going to fall. No, actually gets away. Fungal's actually proving to be very effective against this Marine count here, and that's really all that Cloud's making at the moment.
Man.
Does have a couple of siege tanks behind this now finally as well.
Nerchio just keeps losing Infestors, though. He needs to get out of there. He has no support for these units at all. Needs to sit back and play a little bit more defensive. His Zerglings are just getting eliminated way too quickly right now. Everything Nerchio makes is just dying.
Yeah, so looks like this is just such a weird game. Just tug of war in the middle of the map. This almost feels like Zergling Baneling Wars in ZVZ, but on a bigger scale in the late game. So just yet more Zerglings being produced. Finally, a fair unit composition out of Cloud coming up.
Yep, that's right. Adding on more tanks, and that certainly will help quite a bit. Adding on more medevacs as well. Nerchio still with a slight supply advantage right now, but both of these players just really, really need to be very careful and decisive about how they do the next part of the game here. Cloud really trying to make his Marines count, but sending them out so small at a time. The one thing that he's really doing well, though, is really keeping the energy on those Infestors low, and he does manage to pick a few off from time to time. So if he can just send out little groups of Marines like this, draw fungal growths, continue to make tanks and Marauders and more Marines behind all of this, he can move out with a very strong push later on and maybe end the game. But oh, the third base denied yet again by Nerchio.
Yep, but denies it at a time when it has about 60 minerals left at it. So
not as big of a deal.
No, not really. I mean, Cloud is going to need to get another base down. It looks like he did lift something over to the 5th on the left-hand side of the base, but he will need a couple of siege tanks to be able to lock that down. It looks like that's what he's sending out at the moment. Oh, but there's so many Lings!
GG.
And there's GG! So Nerchio, in kind of that slap-down, drag-out fight, is actually the victor.
Yeah, what a crazy game from Nerchio and Cloud there. Really, really was.